Illinois rental laws outline the rules in the state regarding lease agreements and eviction. We'll overview the laws for standard lease agreements, month-to-month lease agreements, and evictions. Standard lease agreement. A standard lease outlines the terms between a landlord and tenant for the renting of property. A standard lease is commonly a one-year fixed period and is the most widely used rental contract. Month-to-month lease. A month-to-month lease is an agreement between a landlord and tenant that renews automatically every month. The agreement terminates upon notice by either party. The notice must be provided by the landlord or tenant a minimum of 30 days prior to termination as required by law. Required disclosures. In Illinois, the landlord is required to provide the following disclosures as part of the lease agreement. Concessions. If the landlords have provided the tenants with a concession, it must be stated in the lease accompanied by the words "concessions granted" at least a ½ inch in height on the document. If there have been concessions allowed, failing to include mention of them in the lease is considered a misdemeanor in Illinois. Radon. The landlord is not required to test for radon, but if the landlord finds evidence of radon on the premises, it must be disclosed to the tenant. Shared meter. If a tenant is required to pay a portion of a master utility, the landlord must share the formula used to calculate the tenant's responsibility. LandLord Access. In Illinois, there is no required notice for landlords to enter the property for repairs or non-emergency reasons. However, it's recommended that the landlord provide tenants with a reasonable notice. Security deposit laws. In Illinois, there is no cap to what the landlord may request for security. If the landlord owns more than 25 rental units, they must place the security deposit in an interest-bearing account. After termination of the lease, the landlord must return the money within 30 days. If there are deductions, the landlord must list and send the deductions to the tenant within 30 days and release the remaining security deposit amount within 15 days thereafter. Eviction laws. There are 3 legally accepted causes for eviction in Illinois. Non-payment of rent. If the tenant is late on rent, the landlord can issue a 5-day notice to pay or quit. This gives the tenant 5 days to pay the rent in full, along with any penalties, or vacate the property. If they do neither, the landlord may be forced to seek an eviction from the court. Unlawful activity. If the tenant has engaged in illegal activity in or on the premises, the landlord may issue a 5-day notice to quit. Unlike most notices to quit, this one cannot be cured. Non-compliance. If the tenant breaks any portion of the lease other than late rent, the landlord may give the tenant 10 days to either comply with the lease or vacate the property.